There's a certain inertia over there. There's a certain vested interest that almost sees that as an enemy of business as usual. So I'm not surprised. I mean, this is something that we should have anticipated. People are not going to give up their so-called benefits. They're not going to give up the profits that they're making from what they are doing business on. And it's inevitable that you get this kind of resistance. But I think truth will triumph and science will triumph.
The 1.5.
Why did you hug Nancy Pelosi?
Because she's a dear friend. I like her a lot. She's a wonderful lady and a remarkable leader.
But is 2 degrees C consistent?
And she hugged me.
Is 2 degrees
What
C
does it
consistent
mean that
with Mark
President
Markey?
Obama will arrive tomorrow?
I think it should make a difference, and I hope he sits down with the other leaders and they decide on taking the right steps and coming up with a strong agreement.
Do you feel that science has been ignored?
Well, I mean, let's begin with that. I mean, it took a long time to get at least some degree of agreement on this limit. So I think the next step will come when the science emerges by 2013, 2014.
Do you think the U.S. is offering enough in terms of cuts in greenhouse gas emissions?
Well, as far as the U.S. is concerned, I mean, let's face it, for 8 years they had no action. So I think they really have to take one step at a time, and I hope they don't stop there.
Could you comment on Canada and the tar sands? Canada and the tar sands.
Well, I really don't know enough about that project.
What
Do you feel like science is being ignored here?
No, I don't think so. I
What
don't
about
think
the
so.
finance that Hillary Clinton put on the
I think
table
that's very
today?
encouraging. That's very encouraging. That's an extremely positive step.
Dr. Pachara, you said if people stop eating meat once a week, it would help the issue of global warming. Why?
Why? Because according to the FAO, there are 18% of the emissions of greenhouse gases are associated with the livestock cycle. In fact, there are other estimates which indicate much higher emissions from this source. And I think if we make adjustments in our lifestyles, then even a small step like this can really make a difference. It would bring down emissions, who knows, by 3, 4 or 5%.
Just if people stop eating meat once a
Yeah,
week.
and they'll be healthier. I keep telling everyone, you'll be healthier and so would the planet.
Are you a vegetarian?
I've become a vegetarian for this very
When did you
reason.
become a vegetarian?
Well, about 7, 8 years ago.
And in terms of the goals that have been set by emission targets set by China and by the U.S., are those enough to get to 2 degrees C, or are those not fitting with the SRES scenarios that are in IPCC?
Well, it's a first step, and we have said very clearly that if we want to stabilize temperature increase to about 2 degrees Celsius, then we necessarily have to ensure that global emissions peak no later than 2015.
Would these make global emissions peak?
No, they won't. They won't. But that means the cost of reducing them later will be higher. The impacts associated with this scenario will probably be a little worse. But if that's the best that the global community wants to decide on, so be it.
But so in other words, they won't make the 2 degrees at the current levels?
Well, not immediately. I mean, you can get an overshoot scenario where you increase
but not by
emissions,
2050?
No, why not? I think it can be done. Theoretically, you could increase emissions, say up to 2020, peak in 2020, and then start bringing them down rapidly.
There's a leaked UN document